Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs. For the first time, radar images recorded inside a Navy ship have confirmed the presence of several unknown objects that swarmed around the ship for hours.
From our 8 News Now investigators, dramatic UFO footage recorded aboard a U.S. warship off the coast of Southern California is making waves. As we first reported last week, Navy sailors recorded video of 2 Tic Tac shaped objects near their ship. Well, now an eyewitness to that encounter has stepped forward, and coincidentally, he's from Las Vegas.
8 News Now investigator George Knapp spoke with the witness about his encounter with a whiz-bang craft that emerged from the ocean.
This is the famed Tic Tac object that was pursued by the Navy's best aviators off the coast of Southern California back in 2004. And this is the thermal image of 2 strikingly similar objects documented by the crew of the USS Jackson in February 2023 in the very same waters. The original Tic Tac proved to be one of the most consequential UFO incidents of all time, first investigated by a secret program based in Las Vegas, managed by the DIA. The incident generated a huge wave of media coverage and inspired Congress to launch new investigations into UFOs, now called UAPs.
I feel obligated to show moral leadership on this issue of UAP disclosure by validating the credibility of the courageous men and women who have come out as witnesses and whistleblowers to expose the truth.
In the most recent congressional hearing into the UAP mystery, retired Rear Admiral Dr. Tim Gallaudet encouraged witnesses to step forward, and now one of them has.
I am Operations Specialist Senior Chief Alexandra Wiggins. Been in the Navy for 23 years and counting.
When Alexandra Wiggins heard that a video from the USS Jackson's encounter with unknown objects was circulating, he reached out to the former admiral and was then put in touch with filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, who first released the new Tic Tac video on the podcast Weaponized. Wiggins not only shared details about the encounter, but also his personal connection to Las Vegas. He grew up here, as shown in this photo with his brother in the family's backyard.
I've watched you when your hair was as dark as mine.
In February 2023, Wiggins was a senior chief and radar specialist on the Jackson, and air traffic controller for the Navy. His main job was to identify what might be in the air near the ship. He and others in the Jackson's Combat Information Center saw curious objects on their screens. Wiggins wanted to get eyes on whatever it was and went out to take a look.
And to my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon, but it looked as if it were surfacing out of the water.
He says he jammed back to the combat center and took a closer look on the Sapphire system, which is a thermal sensor, not a camera. The sensor detected not just 1, but 2 Tic Tac shaped objects. Neither showed any hint of an exhaust system or any known propulsion system.
We only saw the one, and then we see the second one. It was only when we zoom out we realize, holy crap, there's 2 more out here, a total of 4. And all of a sudden, you just see all 4 of them take off to the northeast all at the same time, just out of nowhere. And if I had to talk speed, it would say like maybe 2 steps behind instantaneous.
A former analyst for the Defense Department and Department of State, Merrick von Rennenkamp, scoured air traffic records and found there were no planes or helicopters whose presence might explain the 4 objects seen by the Navy crew. Wiggins makes it clear he is not a whistleblower, merely a witness. He says he's loved his years with the Navy. The ship did not file any formal notice about the incident because the Tic Tacs weren't close enough to the ship and did not display hostile intent. As for the Pentagon's UFO office, Arrow, current and former military personnel have told us they simply do not trust that operation. Wiggins previously served on the USS Omaha, one of 10 Navy warships which were buzzed by dozens of unidentified objects in the same area back in 2019. Radar returns and thermal images documented multiple large circular objects around the Omaha for more than an hour. One of them disappeared into the sea.
Oh, splash. I just want to be able to step out and kind of give any information I can to help out, again, and help understand what it is that we're witnessing and what we've been witnessing in the skies this 80 years.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
November 14th marks the 20th anniversary of the most consequential UFO incident in modern history.
U.S. Navy aviators were sent to intercept an otherworldly object that, quote, took off like a bullet fired from a gun 2 decades later. The Pentagon still can't explain what it was, but its impact still being felt.
Our chief investigator, George Knapp, has more on that story tonight. George?
It was dubbed the Tic Tac UFO because its shape and color resembled a popular breath mint, but that mint was 45 feet across, and it was detected by the Navy not just once, but dozens of times in November 2004. A now famous video of the Tic Tac, recorded by Navy pilots, was initially buried by the military, but a clandestine investigation based here in Las Vegas eventually documented why this encounter was so revolutionary. During a 2-week period in November 2004, the world's most sophisticated sensor systems attached to the powerful USS Nimitz carrier group were befuddled by repeated cat-and-mouse type incursions of unknown objects off the coast of Southern California. Objects that were detected 1 second, then gone the next. On November 14th, radar operators finally got a lock on one object, later dubbed the Tic Tac, and sent Top Gun pilot David Fravor to investigate. Fravor, the commander of the famed Black Aces squadron, sped through the skies in his F-18 and could not believe what he was seeing. Years later, his opinion has not changed.
The video was taken by a crew after us when we came back and landed. There were 4 of us. We chased it visually, and I looked at it for over 5 minutes. I watched it moving around. I watched it interact with me. I cut across the circle when it disappeared. So it's not a bird. It's not a weather balloon. It had no wings. It had no rotors. There was no wash. I mean, I've heard all the internet, people of what it is. Most of them have no idea what they're talking about. And the 4 of us will, to this day, tell you that we have no idea what we saw as far as where it was from or what it was. But it had incredible performance characteristics that were well beyond brand new Super Hornets right out of the factory, which is what the jets were we were flying.
Fravor says the Tic Tac took off like a bullet shot from a gun. Commander Chad Underwood was in the second F-18 sent after the Tic Tac. Equipment on his plane recorded the grainy image from an infrared sensor. Underwood says there's a second recording that's never been released. He adds the Tic Tac engaged in active jamming.
I did get jamming cues on my radar tape, and you can see cues of jamming on both your radar and your FLIR tape.
Accounts vary about what happened to the recordings afterward. The encounter was not investigated by the Navy and wasn't sent up the chain. A few years later, a bootleg of the recording appeared online but didn't make much of a splash. A more detailed article by a former Navy pilot appeared later in an online aviation publication without much notice. Then in December 2017, the Tic Tac made worldwide news when it was the centerpiece of a front-page story in the New York Times. The article revealed the existence of previously unknown Department of Defense programs looking into UFOs. The Tic Tac and Commander Fravor's account were viewed as solid proof that genuine unknowns have continued to perplex the world's most powerful military. That is still the case today. The Times article turned the UFO subject on its head. Other mainstream media started looking into the cover-up. Members of Congress asked questions and demanded briefings. The public showed renewed interest in a subject long dismissed as nonsense. Veteran journalist Ralph Blumenthal admits it was a tough sell to get his editors to run that story.
Everything was documented, but it was still a difficult topic for the Times to grapple with. And the Times has a history of being very skeptical of UFOs, as you know.
The larger story was an expose of a previously unknown investigation of UFO encounters within the U.S. military dubbed ATIP, described as a program by some or a working group by others. A career intelligence officer named Lou Elizondo, who left his Pentagon position in October 2017, was instrumental in getting the Tic Tac video into the hands of the New York Times. He said this in January 2018 when we asked about the Tic Tac Nimitz encounters. Are there other similar cases still hidden in military files?
But there are many, many Nimitz incidences that are equally compelling, that are told from the eyes of individuals just like Commander Dave Fravor.
Documents surfaced later showing Elizondo had taken formal steps to get the Tic Tac video and others released to the public. Another former intelligence insider, Chris Mellon, admits he put the videos into the hands of the New York Times. The subsequent wave of publicity led to the creation of a new Department of Defense investigation, the UAP Task Force. That organization, headed by a veteran intelligence pro named Jay Stratton, quietly compiled and analyzed other astonishing UFO videos and cases, a few of which eventually surfaced in media reports, including ours. In his very first on-camera interview, Stratton told us a major goal of his task force was to reduce the stigma so that more military pilots would be willing to report their encounters. So what does the Pentagon know about the Tic Tac today? Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who headed up a subsequent UFO investigation called Arrow, claims that pretty much all UFO cases can be explained, and that the Tic Tac could be explained too if only there was more data. But there is. What Kirkpatrick and others chose to overlook is that a highly detailed analysis of the Tic Tac and its capabilities was written. It was the very first case investigated by a hush-hush program within the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and based in, of all places, Las Vegas. It had yet another odd acronym, ALSAP.
It was completely UFO related.
So contrary to what the public has been told recently, the U.S. government knows quite a bit about the Tic Tac. One goal of the secret studies was to eventually build one of these things of our own. Next, we'll unveil details about what was learned about the amazing Tic Tac and its performance capabilities.
So I think I have an idea of what the answer to this question is, but will there be additional congressional hearings?
There will
be,
yeah. Supposedly by the end of the year, we'll have a hearing in the Senate, which will call forward people associated with Arrow, ask them how it's going, not very well. And then in the House, they're going to have a number of witnesses, 3 or more, November 13th. They want direct whistleblowers, people who've had sort of hands-on experience with this, or scientists. So we'll see. Okay. It's exciting.
Tic Tac's greatest hits, as we said there.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the water elements? Something under the water there. Can you expand on that, George?
So Dave Fravor, the pilot who chased it and encountered it for more than 5 minutes, said something was under the water, something really big, about the size of a 747. Wow. It was causing the water to churn. It was as if the Tic Tac was docking and interacting with something under there. The submarines in the area did not detect it, but it has cloaking capabilities as the Tic Tac itself did. So a lot more to come on that.
I just heard Ted say, wow. I imagine some of our viewers as well. Also, I understand we can Netflix and chill with George soon.
Yes, a big debut coming up November 8th. More on that next
I'll come
time
and talk to you about it.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
Thanks, George. Well, this week marks the 20th anniversary of what might be the most consequential UFO encounter of all time, what's known as the Tic Tac incident.
And that case, Denise, helped reignite public interest in the UFO mystery and directly led to ongoing inquiries by members of Congress. What few know is that the investigation into the Tic Tac began right here in Las Vegas.
Chief investigative reporter George Knapp has the story.
You know, when this weird encounter happened 20 years ago Thursday, the U.S. Navy didn't bother to investigate, and the public didn't hear about it until years later. In the years since, Pentagon officials have done their best to downplay the Tic Tac, but there was a significant investigation, and it began here in our backyard. Over a 2-week period in November 2004, off the coast of Southern California, the ships and planes of the USS Nimitz carrier group detected brief glimpses of unknown objects dozens of times. Aviators aboard 2 separate F-18s sent to investigate encountered a weird craft with astounding capabilities. 19 years later, one of those pilots told his story at a public hearing before Congress.
I'd like to say that the Tic Tac object we engaged in 2004 was far superior to anything that we had on time, have today, or are looking to develop in the next 10 years.
David Fravor says there was no investigation by the Navy or anyone else back in 2004, as if the incident never happened. But 4 years later in Las Vegas, scientist Dr. Colin Kelleher heard the story from a former military man who was applying for a job with Bass, a subsidiary created by Las Vegas tycoon Robert Bigelow, which was conducting an ambitious but hush-hush investigation of UFOs for the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. The program was given a clunky acronym, ALSAP. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid led the way in securing $22 million for ALSAP, and the very first case it looked at was the Tic Tac incident. Bits and pieces of the Tic Tac tale had appeared in public forums over the years without much notice. This changed in 2017 when the New York Times published a front-page story and released the now famous video. At nearly every opportunity since then, Pentagon officials have tried to downplay the Tic Tac or hint there might be prosaic explanations, often mirroring the claims made on social media by loud but unqualified debunkers.
There's a lot of cleanup to do when you have a lot of these people saying it's birds or whatever they're saying. It's frustrating because you know the rest of the story, and you can't tell the rest of the story.
Jay Stratton was a highly regarded intelligence official who, with his colleague Dr. James Lakatsky, helped convince the DIA to launch OSAP. He's also the person who conducted the first investigation of the Tic Tac.
I talked to him when he was doing it. We talked on the phone extensively. He did a very thorough job.
According to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former head of AARO, the Pentagon's most recent incarnation of a UFO investigation, the Tic Tac case is still considered to be an unknown, but only because there's no data to analyze. Nothing was saved back in 2004, he says. Here's what Kirkpatrick left out: a 13-page, highly detailed analysis of the Tic Tac and its extraordinary capabilities. We first released the document back in 2018. The man who wrote it is Jay Stratton, who years later was the head of another program, the UAP Task Force. The report is loaded with data and facts about the Tic Tac, which is referred to in the report as an AAV, anomalous aerial vehicle. Stratton interviewed the aviators, but also spoke with radar and other sensor operators who said Tic Tac objects were detected many times as they dropped from 60,000 feet to ocean level in a matter of seconds, traveling at 30 to 60 times the speed of sound, but without producing sonic booms. Pilots saw the object with their own eyes and on their instruments, including the infrared sensor which recorded the video images. Multiple other sensors confirmed the encounters, including an ANSPY, capable of tracking a golf ball 100 miles away, and the E-2 Hawkeye early warning aircraft that flew above the Nimitz group. On his way out the door after leaving AARO, Dr. Kirkpatrick says maybe the Tic Tac was a CIA balloon or some other secret military project being tested near the Nimitz. The OSAP report directly contradicts those guesses. Among the key findings in the report, the AAV is not something that belongs to the U.S. or any other nation. It was so advanced it rendered U.S. capabilities ineffective. It showed velocities far greater than anything known to exist, and it could turn itself invisible, both to radar and the human eye. Essentially, it was, quote, undetectable and unchallenged. Further, Commander Fravor reported that he saw a large disturbance just under the surface of the ocean, an estimated 100 yards across. It appeared to him as if the Tic Tac was rendezvousing with the underwater object. When the Tic Tac zoomed off at an incredible speed, whatever was underwater vanished too. Jay Stratton personally ruled out the chance that this was secret U.S. technology being tested. The UAP Task Force, which Stratton later directed, produced another report for Congress, which found 143 well-documented encounter cases that started with the Tic Tac, which the task force said could not be explained by any technology known to exist on Earth. That secretive DIA program, OSAP, that was based here, eventually compiled a much more detailed report about the Tic Tac, 143 pages long, but not one page of that report has ever been released. By the way, Congress is holding a new UFO hearing this week, one day before the 20th anniversary of the Tic Tac incident.
And we briefly talked about that the last time you were here last week. So that congressional hearing is actually coming up on Wednesday.
Yes.
I'm sure you've got a pretty deep Rolodex on this. Any idea who's going to be testifying?
I was invited. The committee said, we'll seat you up front. You can submit a statement, but, we're going to be here and cover it from here. And there's really great witnesses. I want to hear from Lou Elizondo. He's been front and center in this for a number of years. He was part of that New York Times story. He helped get the Tic Tac video out into the public. And he's taken a lot of slings and arrows over the years. So I want to hear what he's got on his mind.
Looking forward to it.
Sure.
Ahead of the curve as always. George Knapp, thanks for being here. Anything you missed is always available. You can find all of George's reporting over on 8newsnow.com. Thank you, George.
You want to know what's out there as much as you want to know what's out there.
So, are UFOs real? That is the question a congressional committee was talking about today. Good evening and thanks for staying with us at 6:30. I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. Lawmakers haven't held a hearing like this in half a century. Defense officials telling lawmakers they have some 400 reports from military personnel of UFOs or UAPs.
And while they can explain some, they simply cannot explain others. Washington correspondent Alexander Limon reports.
There's a lunatic! In the first hearing of its kind in 50 years, defense officials confirmed sightings of unidentified flying objects, or as the military calls them, UAPs. But
we have detected no emanations within the UAP task force that is that would suggest it's anything non-terrestrial.
Officials said there have been no collisions between U.S. aircraft and the objects, but there have been 11 near misses.
And have we attempted to communicate with those objects?
No.
We don't even put out a alert saying, you know, identify yourself.
Some of the objects, like the triangles in this video, were later classified as drones. But defense officials said there are sightings they still can't explain. The Defense Department says it is taking reports seriously and that it continues to expand its office that's gathering and analyzing reports of UFOs.
It's not about finding alien spacecraft, but about delivering dominant intelligence.
Some lawmakers said the sightings could be evidence of secret U.S. or foreign technology. But California Congressman Adam Schiff was unsure.
There is something there, measurable by multiple instruments, and yet it seems to move in directions that are inconsistent with what we know of physics or science.
We're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
After the public hearing, a classified version of the hearing on UFOs continued behind closed doors. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs. For the first time, radar images recorded inside a Navy ship have confirmed the presence of several unknown objects that swarmed around the ship for hours. I-Team reporter George Knapp here with a story that broke today on Mystery Wire.
Thanks, Brian. Over the past 3 years or so, the public has been able to see several astounding images of what certainly qualify as UFOs during encounters with the U.S. Navy. There's no question that the Pentagon has censored data to go along with the photos and videos, but none of that information has been leaked or otherwise released. That is, until today.
Omaha, 15 kids.
For 2 long hours on the night of July 15, 2019, the crew of the USS Omaha detected on multiple sensor systems unknown objects that surrounded the ship as it moved through ocean waters west of San Diego. One of the objects, a self-illuminated sphere at least 6 feet in diameter, flew alongside the Omaha for an extended period and was observed through a thermal sensor in the ship's combat center. Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell released the Navy video weeks ago and says similar events were reported by 8 other Navy ships in the same area over 3 days.
Mark bearing and range.
There was numerous warships that are having similar it appears to be coordinated interaction, and this whole series was within this kind of, I'd say, circumference of 100 miles, and there was up to 50 to 100 contacts.
In the last 3 years, the Pentagon has reluctantly confirmed the legitimacy of UFO images captured by Navy ships and air crews, including these photos taken off the coast of Virginia and the better-known videos, the so-called Tic Tac incident and the gimbal. But other than the images themselves, there's been no release of censored data to buttress these cases. There is now.
Well, if you can write a general lat long where we're at, and the number of contacts you got, the course and speed meters off them.
Over a period of hours, crew members on the USS Omaha, which is located in the center of this radar screen, monitored the approach of the unknown objects, as many as 14 at one point, all around the ship. 2 different radar systems watched the objects and estimated their speed.
Track 781 just sped up to 46 knots, 50 knots, closing in. 38 knots.
That one's pretty much perfectly 000 relative, right?
Yeah.
Corbell obtained the images from sources he declines to identify. The Pentagon's UAP task force considers the Omaha spheres to be true unknowns. The ships that were under observation by the unknowns were unable to track where they came from or where they disappeared to. The Omaha sphere appears to have vanished into the ocean.
What was splashed?
At that point, it also vanished from all sensors. In one video snippet, 9 of the objects were seen around the Omaha, but 2 of them dropped off, somehow invisible to 2 radar systems.
And it supports the hypothesis that these are not just a balloon dropping into the water, or it's not something that is easily explained. These are true unidentifieds in mass number, and we'll talk more about that, but that's what we're showing people, where you have radar data that goes with FLIR data, what everybody has been belly aching for. So here you go.
If these are foreign-made high-tech drones, how do they fly with no wings, rotors, or detectable exhaust? Do they possess some sort of cloaking ability? The sensor data, combined with the video images, raises difficult questions.
These are unidentified. We don't know what they are. Everybody tries to corner me in saying they're aliens or something like this. I have no idea.
Maintain track as best you can.
George Knapp, 8 News Now. The video of the radar screens consists of 4 clips that were spliced together to show that this went on over a period of time. Today, less than 4 hours after that video was made public by us, a Pentagon spokesperson confirmed it is legit, that it was recorded by Navy personnel and is in the hands of the UAP Task Force. That's the unit created to prepare a report for Congress that is due.
It is the police call everybody will be talking about. Thanks for joining us here at 6 o'clock. I'm Denise Valdez.
I'm Brian Loftus. A family says something crashed into their backyard, prompting them to call 911, saying they saw creatures walking around.
Our 8 News Now investigators digging into this for weeks now. And tonight, our David Sharns with the video you will only see on 8 News Now. David?
Right, Denise, sources telling the 8 News Now investigators that several agencies believe something landed or crashed. Whether it was non-humans or not, it certainly scared the people living on this property. Now, before we show you that video, listen to their call for help.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Okay.
Well, the 8 News Now investigators obtaining video as officers then responded to the call you just heard. You'll see the officers also saw something in the sky that night, but the big question is, what was it, and is it all connected?
Leave her alone.
It's almost midnight on May 1st when a Las Vegas Metro Police officer's body cam catches this, something flashing low in the sky.
911 emergency.
Minutes later,
there's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Someone calls 911 reporting 2 large figures in their backyard.
No, I'm so nervous right now.
The 8 News Now investigators obtaining another officer's video as he's sent to the Northwest Valley home.
I have butterflies, bro. Everyone saw a shooting star, then these people say there's aliens in their backyard.
By now, it's more than an hour after that bright light. Officers meeting up with the caller and his family.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard, or?
They see like a big, that's what they say. They see like a big something with light.
What I saw right now, I do believe in it.
Police walk into the backyard to investigate, but Metro blacked out that part of the video because it's considered private property. What's clear, they're taking this call seriously.
Hey, this might sound like a really dumb question, but did you guys see anything fall out of the sky?
Asking others what they saw.
I would normally discount it as nothing. However, seeing as one of my partners said they saw it too, only reason I'm actually investigating it further.
That investigation turning up no concrete answers as of Wednesday. Whatever or whoever fell into that yard, long gone within minutes.
Oh, hey. If those 9-foot beings come back, don't call us, all right? Deal with it yourself. I ain't dealing with that.
So yeah, this is quite weird, Brian was saying as we're watching this story. Now, we've been in contact with the family in that video, and as you heard in that 911 call, they seem very reasonable and honestly quite scared as you heard them in the call. No, they don't seem impaired in any way. And whatever crashed by the time that police got there was gone, but sources say that there's really no dispute. Something was in their yard. Exactly what? we do not know.
I mean, it's so interesting. So, like, the Metro officer sees something, the neighbor sees something. I mean, so what could it be?
Well, we know that there are obviously a lot of military bases around this area. George Knapp covers a lot of that stuff for us on the 80s Now Investigators. We're showing you drone video from above that area. And we know, of course, Creech not far away, Nellis Air Force Base not far. I checked in with them. They say they are not involved at all, and we are waiting to hear from the Pentagon as well.
And you talked to these people. It seemed completely legitimate to you. And do you have any personal thoughts on maybe what it was?
Right. So it seems from talking to our sources that something happened. There was obviously some flash in the sky. A lot of people saw it that night on the night of April 30th, early in the morning on May 1st. Did that exact thing land in their yard? I don't know. But these people said they saw some SUV circling the area. Could this have been some piece of equipment that malfunctioned? Maybe they saw something and then someone came. I can't believe we're talking about this.
Right.
Someone came and retrieved it from the backyard in the SUV. We don't know. This all comes as a former high-level intelligence officer, a veteran, was on News Nation talking about how there is a program where the government collects some unidentified objects. So this might be that. We just don't know. We're going to work to find out, though.
And
Brian,
no substances. They were looking with clear eyes.
Very interesting.
Not big buggy eyes, though.
This is really unique. Thank you, David. Southern Nevada is abuzz tonight with stories about the crash of an unknown object and the alleged sighting of strange creatures in the backyard of a Northwest Valley home.
So it was last night that 8 News Now investigator David Charnes reported about how Metro Police responded back on May 1st after receiving a strange call from a very frightened family. Well, our report generated a global response, and now piecing together the sequence of events has been kind of tricky, in part because the primary witnesses have been almost as elusive as the beings they say they encountered. Chief Investigator George Knapp is as perplexed as the rest of us. George.
As you know, this is not our first UFO rodeo. We first heard about the incident in early May via the Metro Police grapevine. The incident has a lot in common with other bizarre cases from around the world: an alleged crash, strange beings, and bits and pieces that don't make sense. But the police took this seriously, and so do we. Just before midnight on April 30th, skywatchers across several western states saw a bright fireball streak through the heavens. A police officer working in the Northwest Valley caught a glimpse of the colorful object on his body cam. At nearly the same time, a Ring camera in the area recorded a strange noise and what sounds like a crash. One family living in a ranch-style home had a much closer view of the object. Two brothers and their father were working on a vehicle in their yard when they caught a glimpse of a sparkly object as it came crashing down, then were hit by what they describe as a shock wave. One of the witnesses, a young man named Angel, has stated when the brothers looked into the yard where the object landed, that spot was obscured and blurry, as if by unknown form of camouflage. What they saw next prompted a frantic call to 911.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it, and big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
8 News Now investigators have spoken with family members multiple times in the past 4 weeks, but each of the 3 times we accepted their invitation to do an interview, they didn't answer the door or their phone. These are some of the claims they've made in other public forums. Multiple family members backed up the story in an initial police report we obtained. Angel says they heard the patter of multiple feet in the yard. They later heard footsteps on their roof. They saw one of the 8-foot-tall creatures climb behind the controls of a large front loader stored in the yard as if trying to engage it. He got a good look at one of the creatures, he said, a greenish-grayish being with large eyes and long legs. He says he could hear its deep breaths, and when he locked eyes, he was, in essence, frozen in place, couldn't move. In the middle of the yard where the object had crashed, then vanished, a circular impression was left in the soil.
Okay, where is this on your property?
Metro sources say the police dispatcher initially wondered whether to send a crisis intervention team to help the troubled witness, but then took the incident seriously. 2 officers arrived 38 minutes after the call, and by then had heard from other officers. They proceeded cautiously and managed some nervous laughs.
I ain't dealing with that.
A few days later, the family says 2 Metro sergeants returned to the scene to ask follow-up questions. The family says they also saw men in suits and sunglasses driving in a car with government plates cruising slowly past the house in the following days. Nellis and Creech have denied any interest or involvement with the incident. Metro has indicated they believe the family that something crashed in their yard. But what?
Someone else has access to it.
You mentioned, George, in that piece that they were frozen because so many people have been critical of, like, why didn't they get their phone out? Why didn't they shoot the video? Do we know if there's even any video of this incident?
Yes and no. So there's a surveillance camera in the backyard. The property owner keeps that because he's got a lot of expensive equipment there. What we were told is that at the moment this thing comes down and crashed, this camera went out, and it was out for a couple of minutes. When it came back on, the object was gone, but the circle was there. We've been told by Angel in multiple phone conversations that he shot video of the creatures. We haven't seen it, and we don't know anybody else who's seen it yet, so maybe he'll release it at some point.
It's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, all over.
All right, George, thanks for that. A newly released video recorded by the U.S. Navy personnel 2 years ago shows an unknown sphere that followed a Navy warship before disappearing into the ocean.
The video provides the latest glimpse into an ongoing Pentagon investigation into UFOs. I-Team reporter George Knapp unveils details about the encounter earlier on today on our Mystery Wire website. George.
Ryan, UFOs are in the air. If I'm here in the studio, something's going on. This video was made public today by our colleague filmmaker Jeremy Corbell with analysis and background on Mystery Wire. The unknown object was one of several that essentially surrounded the Navy warship multiple times over 3 days. 4 other Navy ships had similar encounters. Over a period of several days in July 2019, at least 5 U.S. Navy warships based in San Diego were swarmed by drone-like objects of unknown origin. One of those ships, the USS Omaha, was on maneuvers more than 100 miles directly west of San Diego and beyond the Channel Islands. One of the Omaha's central missions is surveillance, so it's packed with cutting-edge technology and sensors. But it appears the Omaha was itself under surveillance. This video was recorded inside the Omaha's command center just before 11 p.m. on July 15th. The image on the screen shows a 6-foot in diameter sphere that traveled alongside the Omaha for about an hour. It was pitch black outside, so the image was obtained via a thermal sensor. Personnel in the command center made multiple recordings of what was on the screen. At precisely 11 p.m., the unidentified sphere seemingly vanished into the ocean.
Whoa, splash, splash.
When they say splash, splash, that doesn't mean there was a physical splash. That means this object went into the water, or they suspect it did.
Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell obtained the video from sources he declines to identify. In April, Corbell and Mystery Wire released a series of other startling images that are included in a briefing presentation prepared by the UAP Task Force, a unit created by Congress last year to collect UFO-related images and information for a comprehensive report due next month. One image from the UAP Task Force is a freeze-frame slide of the sphere seen beside the Omaha. The Pentagon has confirmed that image was captured by Navy personnel. The task force considers it to be a genuine unknown. Other journalists have confirmed that multiple Navy ships in the same vicinity were buzzed by unknown objects during the same time frame, July 2019. Corbell says as many as 14 of the spheres surrounded the Omaha and were detected on sensors on and off during 3 perplexing days at sea. The Omaha's advanced sensors could not maintain a lock on the spheres as they approached the ship or when they departed.
They never found where these things came from or went to. So they don't know where they're launching from or going from. I mean, maybe it's the water, because that's what we're seeing one do.
Mark bearing a range.
Voices on the video confirm the Omaha launched an immediate search using all of its high-tech resources. But when the sphere vanished from the screen, it also vanished from the Omaha's radar and sonar. No wreckage was found on the surface. The UAP Task Force briefing is a classified document, but the images contained in that briefing are not classified. That distinction was made so the task force could use images like this to brief other military and intelligence officials about the UFO mystery. Simply put, the Navy does not know what these things are. They are still considered to be unknown.